All right, guys, the watch list for March 24th, which is Thursday, but it'll be the last trading day of the week because the market's closed on Friday for Good Friday. So, volume's pretty dead. Man, we had a really good day actually today. When I've been saying, keep your position size small and don't expect too much this week because of the low volume holiday week. And the SPY looks like, hey, maybe we're rolling over here, but I don't expect a big move either way, at all this week, and especially tomorrow, day before a 3-day weekend. So. You know what? Real quick, I'm going to show you a couple calls from the room today because CPXX was gapping up and just had shorts on the rope. They announced it a secondary, I think, an offering at $9.50, and then it was holding up in pre-market $1 above that, which had to confound shorts. Not to mention that this was $1.50 like a little over a week ago, and so I think people just kept trying to short it, and that just kept propping it up. I played this as a morning gap play this morning. It opened here, and the opening price is actually a really good setup. It opened at 11.09, popped pretty quickly to 11.25. I'm on the treadmill if you hear some noise in the background. Sorry about that. And then pushed down, but it didn't push down too far. And next thing you know, it gives a nice narrow candle. And I kept thinking shorts are gonna grab this thing and knock it down today. And when they couldn't, I just called this on a 5-minute buy setup because when it looked like this, if it gets through 11. It's a very good chance it gets through the open. That's my definition of red to green, when it gets through the open. And then you have a high of day break right above that, or a potential high of day break. So just called this at 11.01 with a stop at 10.80. Basically 20 cents risk. And it was off to the races and ended up, I said this thing might get to 12. I was wrong. It got closer to 13. It got to, I don't know how high, it got 12.64. So a really good way to start the day. That happened 15 minutes in. A real simple play today was Weight Watchers. One of our moderators, Wayne, alerted the volume spike right here, right after it went down to a level, as Wayne pointed out, taking out stops below a recent low, which you can see right there. Once it comes and takes out these stops, you get a nice reversal, big volume, and when it got up in the high 1290s, I went ahead and said, hey, this could be worth a shot right in here with a low of day stop because it's about 20 cents risk, and then we get this kind of move right here. Love Wayne for that call. I mean, and that was just not really a chart setup. That's just the nature of the group and the teamwork in there, because a lot of people in there watched some of the recent nice movers, and Weight Watchers, WTW is kind of on that list. And so Wayne was able to show us that volume spike and get us anyone who wanted it under 13 with a stop at 12.80. And man, what a nice move there. Also called Solar City, right over this kind of little cluster right here. I think the entry idea was 22.46, right about there, and went up over $1 over the next 15 or 20 minutes. And I'll tell you, that's the kind of trades I look for, things that should work right away, because I don't like to sit in trades and hope. So I'll sit in cash and wait until I get a setup like that. And also mentioned SXE. These are my 4 top calls from today. Let me try that again. SXE. We already had this on Long Watch if you watched my video last night, and then gapped down a little bit. And when it went red to green here, I missed it, but then it was looking like this, and I said, you know what, I like this little flag below 140 because yesterday's high is just above that. So I think I called SXE at 142 with like an 8-cent stop. There's a trigger, and we pushed right through yesterday's high and all the way almost to 170, which if you're a day trader, you understand that's a really nice percentage move in a very short period of time. So there's some highlights from today and kind of an example of the types of trades we take. So going into tomorrow, interesting setups. LEU is one of them. Let me get that line off of there. LEU on an intraday basis today got this monster spike on an insider purchase and held up really well. This one's a low float stock, so I really like this one. It looks really good over 350. But we might get an intraday setup to give us an even better entry, and it might not give us a trade at all. Everything I do is based on daily charts, and then entries are based on intraday if it's a proper setup and I'm not fighting the overall market. Okay, now I've never traded this thing before. I just stumbled across it going through charts, and it does not really meet my volume parameters, right? I mean, these big spikes here barely got to 1 million shares, so that'll show you how thin this is. But price-wise, this is a pretty interesting chart. You had this pop here, lower high, and it's kind of flagging. If it's hard to even say, WNDW gets over today's high, which is 423, you look to the left, and you have another potential another potential catalyst on a break of this high, 440, and then maybe it moves up here. And actually back here, it did make a pretty nice move. Most of the candles aren't that big. Had a nice 2-day move here too. So that one's setting up pretty well, but it's a thinner stock. So, we'll keep it on a chart. Doesn't cost us anything to have it on a chart. GBIM, it's been kind of tailing along under $2 here. Volume's really died off on this one, but if this gets any volume through too, it might be worth a shot. I don't love that one. PETX had a nice volume spike a few sessions ago. Quiet day, and even more quiet day today, but it's coiling. You had an inside day and then another inside day. So I like PETX over 528 over today's high. You might knock down this little flag pattern here. Might be easier to see on 15s. You can kind of picture the trend line there. I'll get this line. This is an old line. Get that off the chart. So I like it over 528. It might get going. They had, I think, FDA approval, if I'm not mistaken. I hope I don't have my symbols mixed up and get emails saying, "Hey, idiot, that's a steel company," or something like that. And I'm talking about FDA approval, but pretty sure that in my brain, that's what the news was from a couple sessions ago. So I want to watch that one. Lumber Liquidators, LL, has almost round tripped, but it hasn't quite. Had a nice pop. Let me scoot in a little bit here. Had a really nice pop, and then gave a lot of it back, but that goes on bounce watch for tomorrow. It might just turn back up. A lot of times the very next day it will. I really don't like the amount of that move that is retraced though, so not in love with that one. KTOV, really nice move here, but then a couple days lower, although it did find buyers down here below 4. Anyway, I'll watch that for an intraday setup. Not really in love with that one either. CERU was actually my favorite this morning as a potential gap play, but never gave an entry. It just, sellers got a hold of it and they won, right? But the beauty of it is, if you make things meet your strict set of rules, if it doesn't do what you're looking for, you just stay out of it. And that's what happened with CERU. But I think it's worth watching tomorrow. I mean, it had gap up, and then it's almost closed the gap already. Sometimes the next day, these things can pop. So I like the idea of having that one on watch. I don't know. I like this one more when I was doing my list, putting my list together. It really doesn't look too bullish, but SZYM was $1.16 and had to move all the way up almost to 320. Put in a lower high here, but really had a nice run a couple sessions ago, and now 2 days lower again. Excuse me, it is back down below the 8-day, which it hasn't been. A lot of times when things get between the 8 and the 20 on a strong stock, on a 5-minute basis, that's where I start looking for a buy. So you can make the same argument on the daily chart here, SZYM. So we'll see. If that gives a proper setup, it could give a good trade. And lastly, I have NQ, which I think this was on earnings 2 sessions ago, and then a quiet inside day today. So NQ up over 440, might retest the high of earnings day, and you have just to the left of that, you have just another recent high and almost blue skies. So NQ is a good setup too. Kind of a tricky trader. Be careful with that one. The first 90 minutes tomorrow is going to be everything. Everything's going to die down after that. So hoping to catch some gappers, or something on this list gives us a nice setup and catch some good trades in the morning. And after that, I wouldn't waste your time trading the afternoon, right? So let's see. This is so there won't be a watch list tomorrow night because we're starting a 3-day weekend. So it looks like my next video will be Sunday night. Have a fantastic holiday weekend, and we'll talk to you then.